ChatGPT. Is it smarter than me? Is it good at Microsoft licensing? Can it answer or beat me in questions that have to do with Windows IoT? Hey, let's get into it. Let's have a battle with ChatGPT. All right, ChatGPT. It's all the rage these days. And it's definitely something that you should try out. Microsoft has pumped $11 billion into this company, and it works way more than anything in the past has worked. So there's definitely something here that works well. I think what we've discovered, and even I've discovered as I've played with it and watched other videos on it, is that it doesn't necessarily always work well if you just ask it a question like you would if you were using a regular search engine. Ultimately, it also is very good at writing things, writing code, writing essays, writing resumes, writing marketing plans. But answering straightforward questions, it gets a little tricky, right? So let's dive into it and let's ask it a few Microsoft Windows IoT questions and see what it comes back with. So let me start with one. We have a new chat there. We have the key here, and what we do is we type the question here, and I would say, can anyone purchase Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC 2021? And hit the button. And let's see, it's thinking about it. So what it says is, Windows 10 IoT Enterprise is a specialized edition designed for use in embedded and IoT, Internet of Things devices. It's intended for use by original equipment OEMs who build and sell devices that run IoT operating system. Perfect. Everything's right so far. Typically, this edition is not sold directly to end users or consumers. Instead, it is licensed and distributed through OEMs who are registered with Microsoft and have entered into a partnership agreement with them. Right again. Actually very impressive. If you are an individual or business looking to purchase Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC 2021 for use in a specific project, you will need to work with an OEM who is authorized to sell and distribute this edition. You can find a list of authorized partners on the Microsoft website, or you can contact Microsoft directly for more information. Again, pretty right, pretty accurate. It got it right. I want to say that it's actually learned over time, because I asked this very question, I want to say about a month ago, and it wasn't exactly correct. It basically had said that anybody could buy the product. It's learning, which is what AI does, right? So over time, it starts to learn, hey, that's not exactly the right info. All right, so let's try something else. Let's see. If I license all the processor cores in a physical server, how many virtual machines do I have the right to run with a Microsoft Windows Server IoT Standard 2022 license? Let's see what it says. The license rules for Microsoft IoT Standard depend on the edition. Assuming you've purchased a standard edition and licensed all the cores of physical server, you have the right to run 2 virtual machines or 2 containers. This is because the standard edition grants 2 operating systems for use on the server, and each can be used to run either a VM or a container. If you want to run more of the containers or VMs on the licensed server, you'll need to purchase additional licenses. Absolutely. Or you can purchase Data Center, which allows unlimited. Yet again, the thing nailed it. It's making me nervous, right? It actually is able to answer all of these questions right, and actually extremely detailed. So let me think about another question. Okay, I've got a good one. Because this is one of my favorite misconceptions. So let's ask it. Is the Microsoft product E the license for the Microsoft Windows software. Yes, the Microsoft product key is typically the license key that grants you the right to use a particular version of Windows. The product key is unique code to activate the software. When you purchase a copy, you'll receive a key. You'll need to enter the key to activate the software and ensure that it's properly licensed. Important to note the product key is not transferable, meaning that you cannot use the same product key to activate multiple copies. Each copy of the software requires its own unique key. So let's take it paragraph by paragraph. So first, it said typically. It says the Microsoft product key is typically the license key. But is it the license? I said, is the Microsoft product key the license? And everyone believes the product key is the license, but in truth, the product key is never the actual license. It's just the thing that makes it usable, unlocks it, if you will, but allows you to use the product. It is not the license. In the OEM channels, it's always the physical COA sticker. The sticker itself is the license. If a device has the sticker, it's licensed. The key just makes the product work. I have videos on my channel that I go into and explain that you can't just go out and buy a key and think you have a legal license, because you don't. And then the next paragraph is, you typically receive it, it's associated, you'll need to enter it, activate the software. Yes, typically that's the case. The next one is, it's important to note the product key is not transferable, meaning you cannot use the same key to activate multiple copies of software. So that is technically false. They're ultimately, again, associating the key with the license and basically telling you that you can't use it because you'd be using the license more than once. The truth is, the key is not the license. So you can use it again and again and again. And that's why people get away with getting keys and selling them on the internet. Because the key will activate multiple times and it'll activate over the phone. In other words, if you have a license and a key, you have the right to reload and reactivate as many times as you need. So if you're like me and you're building a system here at home and you've loaded and activated it, and now you want to erase it for some reason and reload it again, you have the right to do that. And you can keep doing it. And you can use that key on another machine and another machine. But ultimately, you don't actually have a license if you don't have the COA sticker. And then in the volume channels, in the enterprise class channels, you have keys that are tied to companies. And the actual license is the volume agreement that you signed and purchased. And you go into a website and look at your licenses and look at your agreements where you've purchased the licenses. That's your proof of license. In those scenarios, you wouldn't have a COA sticker. In those scenarios, you'd have a key. And again, the key isn't the license, but it is tied to the company and it is tied back to a license that's within a Microsoft website. So a little bit off, but actually overall, very good. I'm still very impressed with ChatGPT. Let me think about one more question. We'll give it a shot. Let's ask it about CALs, one of my favorite and most difficult licensing questions to talk about. Client access licenses. If you try to find information on the internet about licensing of CALs, oh my goodness, it's a mess out there. And you're going to want to probably know someone like me and not just take ChatGPT's word for it. But hey, let's go ask them about CALs. So a good one to ask is, do I need a client access license for a printer? The need for a client access for a printer depends on specific licensing model being used by the organization. If the organization is using a per device licensing model, then a CAL is not required for the printer. In this model, a license is required for each device that directly or indirectly accesses the server. Since the printers are typically considered peripherals and do not directly access the server software, a CAL is not required. However, if the organization is using per user licensing model, then a CAL may be required for a printer. In this case, a license is required for each user that directly accesses the server. If users are accessing the printer through a server, then a CAL may be required. It's important to note that licensing rules can be complex and vary depending on the specific agreements and the version of software being used. It's always best to consult with a Microsoft licensing expert to ensure you're properly licensed. Yes, that is very important. So thank you, ChatGPT, for backing me up. You definitely want to consult with someone like myself. But ultimately, he did well. He did very well. Because the scenario is going to vary depending on where the printer is connected and how it's being used. But in the end, odds are very, very high that you would not need a CAL for a printer. And typically, you never need CALs for a printer. But there is that one scenario where it might be hooked directly to a server. And what they're basically trying to say is if all the users are using the server to get to the printer, then all the users are going to need user CALs. Once again, I would give ChatGPT a point. You did really, really well. In fact, let's do one last scenario, which is the proper way to use ChatGPT, which is to tell it to act like it is something, and then answer the question. So I will say, act like you are a Microsoft licensing expert and provide a detailed licensing guide for Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC 2021. Let's see what it can do. Here it goes. Boom, boom, boom. That's right. There are two types. And the wheels came off. So what you'll find is it is sort of writing a guide, which is good. It gives you a good framework for a guide. But ultimately, it's going out there, it's trying to gather a lot of information around licensing of Windows 10. And it's lumped in not just the IoT, but other licensing channels into this guide. I saw that it mentioned volume licensing. It's talking about subscription models, which the IoT Enterprise LTSC 2021 is not available in a subscription. It is a perpetual COA license only for a physical OEM device, even though we do now have some virtualization options for virtual appliances. But if we look through this, I'll go back up here and try to pick out. There are several programs available for Windows 10, including volume. No. Yeah, so it failed. 2 thumbs down here. So we kind of stumped it. The thing I did want you to show is that it does well at writing stuff and acting like something else and writing that. So if you want it to act like a specific person or specific vertical or professional and write something, it does really well. You should go out and give it a try. Thank you guys for watching my video. And I'll see you in the next one.